Welcome again, my audience. Welcome to Shock Radio. Well, we have a lot to cover. We're going to get right into it. You know, it's now the year 2016. And I've been listening to the promises of our atheist friends that they're going to disprove God. And, I remember back in 2013 they said that. But 2013 went by and they still were unable to disprove God's existence. Then 2014 went by. 2015 went by, and again 2016 went by, and atheists still have not disproven God's existence. I go to church, there's all types of people there, bumper stickers, people saying how much they love God. It seems like atheists are fighting a battle they just can't win. In today's episode, folks, we're going to go through 20 arguments for the existence of God. I have a theory that the reason why atheists cannot disprove God is because there's too much evidence on the side of God, and atheism lacks proof and evidence. I suggest you go on YouTube and look up a video titled "Proof Atheism is Madness," and you can see that. And what's really great is we're getting a lot of emails, and we're seeing a lot of people leaving atheism. And I believe one of the main reasons why people leave atheism is when they watch these debates between Christians and atheists. I have a theory, and I used to be an atheist, so I feel I'm somewhat qualified to talk about this. Atheists tend to hang out in their little cliques of other atheists, and so they'll sort of mirror their opinions off of each other. But in the real world, in the world you and I live in, ladies and gentlemen, the world of reality, people don't think like atheists. In fact, right now, unfortunately, atheists are officially the least trusted group in society. So when people watch these debates, and I'm going to give you some debates you can see, go to youtube.com/Shock of God, and also go to www.shockanow.net. That's spelled SHOCKAWENOW.net. And go to our debates video area, and you'll see that atheists do not fare well in debates. They lose a lot of debates. And this is good. We love our atheist friends. We want them to come back to reality. It's been said that atheism is a crutch for those timid souls that cannot bear the reality of God. And it's also been said that perhaps an atheist cannot find God for the same reason a thief cannot find a policeman. So let's get started with these 20 arguments for the existence of God. Click share below this video. Go to the website below this video. You get a free audio Bible. If we run out of time here on Shock Radio, remember, you can see all these arguments for the existence of God at www.shockanow.net. Just look at the top of this video or in the radio description. So let's get started. 20 arguments for the existence of God. So here we go, folks. Let's go through the 20 arguments for the existence of God. Number 1, the argument from change. Number 2, and by the way, I'm going to go through the list real quick, and then I'm going to stop and talk about what each one is, okay? But number 2, the argument from efficient causality. Number 3, the argument from time and contingency. Number 4, the argument from degrees of perfection. 5 is the design argument. 6 is the Kalam argument. 7, the argument from contingency. 8, the argument from the world as an interacting whole. 9, the argument from miracles. 10, the argument from consciousness. 11, the argument from truth. This is what you call proof and evidence, folks. Number 12, the argument from the origin of the idea of God. 13, the ontological argument. 14, the moral argument. 15, the argument from conscience. 16, the argument from desire. 17, the argument from aesthetic experience. 18, the argument from religious experience. 19, the common consent argument. And 20, Pascal's wager. So we got all those. Remember, 15 is the argument from conscience. And number 1 was the argument from change. Now, if you forget this list, go to www.shockanow.net. That's spelled SHOCKAWENOW.net, and you'll see it right there, 20 arguments for the existence of God. So let's start off with the argument from efficient causality. Okay, the argument from efficient causality goes like this. 1, we notice around us things that come into being and go out of being. A tree, for example, flowers. Trees grow from a tiny shoot. The flowers are brilliant, and then later on they wither and die. Number 2, whatever comes into being or goes out of being does not have to be. Non-being is a real possibility. 3, suppose that nothing has to be. That is, that non-being is a real possibility for everything. 4, then right now nothing would exist. For 5, if the universe began to exist, then all being must trace its origin to some past moment before which there existed literally nothing at all. But 6, from nothing, nothing comes. You see that? There has to be something that's always existed and didn't need to be created. So 7, the universe could not have happened. 8, but suppose the universe never began. Then, for the infinitely long duration of cosmic history, all being had the built-in possibility not to be. But 9, if an infinite time that possibility was never realized, then it could not have been a real possibility at all. So 10 follows logically that there must exist something which has to exist, which cannot not exist. This sort of being is called a necessary being. Sounds like God to me, doesn't it? Number 11 here. Either this necessity belongs to the thing in itself, or it is derived from another. If derived from another, there must ultimately exist a being whose necessity is not derived. That is, an absolutely necessary being. The conclusion 12, that absolutely necessary being is God. All right, let's cover the design argument. This one's really powerful. A lot of atheists will leave atheism. Most atheists are kids, but once they get over 18, most people, as they learn about science, philosophy, common sense, logic, history, they will leave atheism. So if your friends are still in atheism, you're like, how could they be so foolish? Give them time. Let them listen to this. Matter of fact, click share below this video if you're on the radio site, Shock Radio, click share below that, and send this to your atheist friends. We will lovingly, kindly show them the errors of their ways. So let's talk about the design argument. There's 6 parts to it. Number 1, the universe displays a staggering amount of intelligibility, both within the things we observe and in the way these things relate to others outside themselves. That is to say, the way they exist and coexist display an intricately beautiful order and regularity that can fill even the most skeptical person with shock and awe. It is the norm in nature for many different beings to work together to produce the same valuable end. For example, the organs in the body work for our life and health, etc. 2, either this intelligible order is the product of chance or of intelligent design. 3, it is not of chance. 4, therefore the universe is the product of intelligent design. 5, design comes only from a mind, a designer. 6, therefore the universe is the product of an intelligent designer. Go look at your cat and go look at your dog. And the atheists want you to believe that a long time ago an explosion occurred, and out of that, as a direct result, your cat popped out with no intelligent design whatsoever. The atheist believes some weird things. Out of nothing, everything came. Out of chaos, order arrived. It is madness in its purest form. Let's now go to the Kalam argument. The Kalam argument goes like this. Whatever begins to exist has a cause for its coming into being. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause for its coming into being. Now, Dodo Bird Richard Dawkins either he's just so stupid he doesn't get it, or he's pretending he's stupid. I'm going to say he's probably pretending. He knows that no Christian believes that God was created. In fact, it's sinful in Scripture to believe in created gods and even to worship a created God. Notice it said whatever begins to exist has a cause. And Scripture tells us that God never began to exist. He always existed. He is a necessary being, like we talked about earlier. So it makes sense. Whatever begins to exist has a cause for its coming into being. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause for its coming into being. So let us now go to the argument from contingency. The argument from contingency has about 5 parts. If something exists, there must exist what it takes for that thing to exist. 2, the universe, the collection of beings in space and time, exist. 3, therefore, there must exist what it takes for the universe to exist. 4, what it takes for the universe to exist cannot exist within the universe or be bounded by space and time. 5, therefore, what it takes for the universe to exist must transcend both space and time. Let's now go to the argument from truth. The argument from truth has about 4 parts. Our limited minds can discover eternal truths about being. Truth properly resides in a mind, but the human mind is not eternal. Therefore, there must exist an eternal mind in which these truths reside. Let us now go to the argument for the origin of God. The argument for the origin of God has about 8 parts to it. First part, we have ideas of many things. Second part, these ideas must arise either from ourselves or from things outside of us. Third part, one of the ideas we have is the idea of God, an infinite, all-perfect being. Number 4, this idea could not have been caused by ourselves because we know ourselves to be limited and imperfect, and no effect can be greater than its cause. Fifth part, therefore the idea must have been caused by something outside us, which has nothing less than the qualities contained in the idea of God. Sixth part, but only God himself has those qualities. Seventh part, therefore God himself must be the cause of the idea we have of him. Conclusion, therefore God exists. Here's the moral argument. There's about 4 parts to this. 1, real moral obligation is a fact. We are really, truly, objectively obligated to do good and avoid evil. 2, either the atheistic view of reality is correct or the religious one. 3, but the atheistic one is incompatible with there being moral obligation. 4, therefore the religious view of reality is correct. And you see this a lot on some of the shows like the Atheist Experience show. I love that show because it's bringing so many people to Christianity. They'll talk about evil, real objective evil, and how things are evil, and they're just like the man sitting on a tree limb while he's cutting the limb off, while they're cutting the tree limb off, while they're sitting on it, and they fall to their destruction. They're admitting that they do have a moral obligation, but on atheism we shouldn't have one if we're all just meat bags walking around. So it does follow, therefore the view of God existing is correct. Now let's go to the argument from aesthetic experience. Okay, the argument from aesthetic experience. This argument from aesthetic experience goes something like this. Many people of different eras and of widely different cultures claim to have had an experience of God. It is inconceivable that so many people could have been so utterly wrong about the nature and content of their own experience. Therefore, there exists a divine reality which many people of different eras and of most widely different cultures have experienced. There are enormous number of claims. Either they are true or they're not true. In evaluating these claims, we should take into account 1, the consistency of their claims, 2, the character of those who make these claims, and 3, the effects these experiences have had in their own lives and the lives of others. So it is more plausible and rational to believe that these experiences these people are having are valid. Now, that was very similar to our next argument called the common consent argument. It goes like this. There's about 4 parts to it. Belief in God, that being to whom reverence and worship are properly due, is common to almost all people of every era. Second part, either the vast majority of people have been wrong about this most profound element of their lives, or they have not. 3, it is most plausible to believe that they have not. 4, therefore it is most plausible to believe that God exists. And now let's go to the one the atheists hate the most, Pascal's wager. You know, I remember watching a debate where Dr. William Lane Craig was debating an atheist, and he totally decimated the atheist in debate. He did so good, very, very good in the debate. And you can see a lot of his debates at shakanow.net, Oh, I forgot to give you that website. Go to shokawenow.net. You get a free audio Bible there. You can see all the 20 arguments for the existence of God. But what Pascal Wager is saying is, you know, obviously these arguments are very strong. There's proof and evidence. But I remember watching a debate, and the Christian debater in there said, even if you're at a crossroads, imagine you're at a crossroads, and one road leads here and one road leads there. If the evidence was 50-50, which you'll notice in the debates, it's usually 99.99% on the side of the Christian. But even if the evidence was 50-50, it is more rational to choose to follow God. And this is what Pascal was talking about. He wasn't bringing this up as some sort of argument like, see, because of this wager that I've created this way of thinking, therefore God exists. That's not really what it's saying. It's saying, as you look at the evidence, even if 50% of your brain was saying go for atheism and 50% was saying, you know, go for God, you're more rational still to choose the path of God. Here's why. As originally proposed by Pascal, the wager assumes logical reasoning by itself cannot decide for or against the existence of God. There seems to be good reasons on both sides if someone really wants to convince themselves that there's good reasons on the side of atheism, although I've never seen one stitch of proof and evidence that would prove that atheism is accurate and correct. Whenever I ask an atheist, give me some proof and evidence that atheism is accurate and correct, here's what they offer. Unicorns, Santa Claus, they talk about Bigfoot, which I don't know how that would prove that atheism is accurate and correct. It might prove that they're not staying on the subject, or they have problems with focusing on the question, or they're trying to do a bait and switch. But it always cracks me up. When you think atheism, you think Bigfoot, unicorns. They always bring up Pinky the unicorn. Leprechauns, the teapot. I mean, they never give proof and evidence that would show atheism is accurate. If you want to see a really good video, I called into this atheist show, and we recorded the conversation. Go to youtube.com/shockofgod. Also look for a video titled Proof Atheism is Madness, and you'll see people calling up asking atheist shows, what proof and evidence can you give me that would show atheism is accurate and correct? And they really have nothing. In fact, the number one reason why people leave atheism is lack of evidence. It's self-refuting. So let's go with, back to this Pascal's wager. I really like it. It says if you place your trust with God, you lose nothing, even if it turns out that God did not exist. But if you place it against God and you are wrong and God does exist, you lose everything. God, eternity, heaven, infinite gain. Now notice, you could approach this positively or negatively. You could say, hey, you know, you're going to go to hell if you choose wrong. And I happen to actually believe that. Scripture says that hell is enlarging itself daily. Jesus talked about hell more than anyone in the Scripture, and even Richard Dawkins, who would love to say that Jesus never existed, he finally flip-flopped. We got that debate too. He flip-flopped in a debate with John Lennox and admitted that he shouldn't have said that Jesus never existed. He said he was wrong. Richard Dawkins admitted he was wrong, and Jesus, is a real person. But that's what's good about Pascal's wager. If you place your trust with God, you lose nothing, even if it turned out that God did not exist, which is impossible because he's a necessary being. But if you place it against God and you are wrong, you lose everything. So to me, it's rational. All these arguments, and there's 20 of them. We're going off the air right now. We don't have a little time to go through them all. But go to www.shakanow.net to get the entire list of 20 arguments. Get yourself a free audio Bible. We love the atheists. We love the Muslims. We love the Buddhists, atheists. We love the Hindus. We love you guys. We just really want people to start thinking rationally. Look at the evidence for God on one side and look at the evidence for any other worldview or belief system on the other side. Like, I'll compare the evidence to God against the evidence for atheism any time, and I will win every single time. The evidence is totally on the side of God. So God bless you guys. I love you. Talk to you later. Don't forget to go to the websites below this video for your free audio Bible. Click share below the video if you'd be so kind, and send this to one of your sweet, cuddly, lovable, huggable atheist friends. Maybe you and I together can bring them to reason and logic and common sense and veritas and truth.